welcome to Emma's ESL English. So yesterday I mentioned about having phrases that rhyme. It's pretty common in English to use what's called mnemonics to help us remember things. So what I wanted to look at today was some common phrases that native English speakers use to help us remember things. You might hear them say this, but also hopefully maybe some of them are useful for you. I'm really curious whether you have anything that's maybe exactly the same or very similar to this. Some of these will not be relatable. Others, I think, surely every country must have something like this, right? It's really common for us to use things to help us remember, and that's what these are about. So probably the most famous one, and maybe the first thing that you learned in English, was the ABC song, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This helps us remember the alphabet, helps us really embed it in our brain because it's a catchy song and we can remember it really easily. I learned that song, nearly 40 years ago, and it's still very much in my head. There are a lot of other things that we use. I think the other song that's probably the most familiar to me from school is about the months. How many days there are in each month. In English, we have a song. It starts, is it a song? I think it can be a song, but it can also just be a rhyme. So 30 days in September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except for February alone, which has 28 days clear and 29 in each leap year. That is actually a song. It has 28 days clear and 29 in each leap year. So, depends which one you can remember. There are a few different variations on this, but obviously the most important part is if you are thinking, how many days are there in this month? You can use this song to help you figure out how many days there are. Pretty important one. There are some things that are really useful to us to help us remember things about life. So, for example, whenever I need to turn a screw, I never can remember, do I go left or right with the screw? And then we have this phrase, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So it reminds me, if I turn this screw left, it's going to get looser. If I turn the screw right, it's going to get tighter. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Really useful one. For your English, the one that I was taught when I was in primary school is I before E except after C when we're spelling words like, for example, friend. Of course, this is English, so that doesn't always work. The other one that may be useful for you in terms of your life, especially if you're a traveler in any way, is thinking about the points of a compass: north, south, east, and west. And if you're anything like me, struggling with directions, which way is right, which way is left, then this might be useful for you. In the UK, we have a breakfast cereal called shredded wheat. It's not very exciting. You pretty much need to always put sugar on it to make it interesting. But we use it in this phrase. To help us remember, we go clockwise around the compass. We start at the top. Never eat shredded wheat. So using this phrase, we can remember which way is east and which way is west. Never eat shredded wheat. There's a couple of other ones I wanted to mention. These are maybe a lot less useful for you, depending on your life and what you're doing. When I was learning to play the piano and trying to remember where, if you read music, where on the lines do the notes go, it can be really hard to remember. So my teacher taught me 2 for each hand, and one of them was face, F-A-C-E, is the spaces between, and the lines were every good boy deserves fun. This was a way to remember which notes, every would be E, G, good, like that, would be how to remember it. I don't really use that so much anymore now. It's kind of a long time ago, but every now and again I need to remember, and I would say every good boy deserves fun. The other one is if you live in America. One of the most famous rivers in America is the Mississippi, and of course the Mississippi also has a state. If you have trouble remembering how to spell Mississippi, which is not surprising because it's full of I's and S's and P's and what order do they come in, then we have this phrase that kind of helps us remember. In fact, it's just spelling Mississippi, but it's the rhyme and rhythm of it that make it easier to remember. So we can say Mississippi. Mississippi. If you can get that rhythm into your head, then it's much easier to remember how to spell Mississippi, which is entirely useless if you don't live in America. But for some reason, it's stuck in my head, so I still have it. And the last one I wanted to talk about is something that probably if you're in business, you have come across before. In business, it's very common for us to have acronyms for things. That is, words that we've made up using the first letters of other words. So if we think of, for example, a CEO is an acronym for a Chief Executive Officer. We have a lot of acronyms in business, and what you'll find is each sector, each industry has its own acronyms. When I get young students in sometimes who are just starting out their careers, very often their biggest complaint is how many acronyms they have to deal with. And I say, get your notebook, write it down in a corner. Every time you hear an acronym, write it down, go figure out what it is, ask somebody, make a list of acronyms for your sector. That's going to really help you in the future. And that's what I had to do when I started in a new sector or even a new company. I found very often with volunteer management, each charity had its own set of acronyms. And the people who are working in that charity, they think everybody knows those acronyms. So they never think to explain it to the new person. But if you're new, every conversation sounds super crazy. Learning those acronyms is really important. This one is a business acronym that is used to help people know how to deal with different situations or how to even plan a project. There's a lot of different business acronyms, but I just wanted to put one in here. So this one is SMART, S-M-A-R-T, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So any project that you have, any particular activity that you're trying to do, you should always make sure that you have a specific goal, target, or thing that you're aiming for, that whatever you're doing is measurable, so you can say exactly what you're achieving and prove it, that it's attainable, it's possible for you to do that thing, that it's relevant, so whatever this project is actually going to be useful for your company, and that it's time-bound. Right? There's no point in having a project that is infinitely going on. You need to know exactly, is it going to take 1 month, 2 days, 6 months, so that you can explain why we're still working on this. I hope those are useful for you. One way or another, they get used a lot in English. So let me know in the comments on the blog, or if you want, email me to let me know what kind of stuff you have in your language that can help you remember things. For example, do you have an alternative version of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey? If you have any questions, you can email me at emmaseslenglish@gmail.com, or you can head over to the blog at www.emmaseslenglish.com. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.